Hello, Betsy and Laura. Welcome to the Feminine Frequency Podcast.
Oh, thank you for
Hello.
having us.
Yeah,
We're
it's
excited
fun
to be
having
here.
two guests. We're going to have a dynamic conversation. Yeah. I love
Uh,
having both of you here. We had an amazing interview for the Confident Woman series, and I know that
Mm-hmm.
there's so much more to share today. So thanks for being here.
Yeah.
we're
No, thanks for
excited to
having
dive
us.
in.
Yeah, always.
Amazing. So, why don't we start? I'd love to hear and have you share a little bit about the work that you currently do with your clients. I know you take a really holistic and I would say like spiritual approach to business also, in addition to the strategy. So, let's start there.
I guess we do take a pretty spiritual slant on business coaching. Betsy has a very strong background in business, and we both like came from different sort of Betsy came more from a coaching space. I came more from like building a brand space before we started Luscious Hustle. But it's always so interesting to us because I guess we are so like knee deep, more even knee deep. We're like up to our armpits in like how to build a business from an energetic standpoint. And it's really interesting when we get clients who have come from a very corporate space or they're like all strategy and numbers and like, this is my click through rate and this is my opt in rate and this, da, da, da. They can rattle off all this data. But there's frustration happening, or there's things that are not clicking, not moving, not working in their business, and they can't make sense of it because the numbers say it should happen and it's not happening. And so that's for Betsy and I where we feel like that's where we come in, is to really deep dive on like what is happening underneath the surface. Because really, I mean, we've both come from previous businesses and experiences where we were doing all the right things, like we were following the strategy the way it's, air quotes, meant to be done, and it wasn't working or it wasn't feeling good, or we would hit the goal and then feel empty. And so then that's really where, we always say like our business was born from the ashes of, birth from the ashes of burnout. It really was like we burned ourselves out trying to be successful the traditional way. And when that didn't work anymore, it's like, well, let's just throw caution to the wind and do it differently. And then that really is what gave us permission to go headlong into like, how can we build our business truly from an energetic standpoint? Like, what if I started with me first and my energy type and my inner authority and what is truly right for me, and build the business foundation around that, instead of taking a cookie cutter model that maybe great works for somebody else, but it's just not jiving for me. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that approach. And I think it's really the new way of doing business, especially for as female business owners. I think that our systems and our cycles and the way that we operate is very different to the traditional, whether it's the corporate go, 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 9 to 5, pack your schedule, or even just the traditional hustle mentality of entrepreneurship. And so I love the name of your business, Luscious Hustle, and really putting this new energy in and making sure that you don't burn out, that you don't get to that place where you're just, can't function really, which isn't sustainable, right?
Yeah.
So tell me more in the realm of, because we talk about feminine and masculine energy here, and that's kind of what we're talking about here, right? Is having both and not just having just solely being in the masculine. Tell me how that plays into creating a sustainable business and how you guys see it, how these energies play into being an entrepreneur.
I think the masculine feminine conversation is super interesting because everything that we're taught in business is taught from the masculine point of view. And I say that because, men's energy cycles are a 24-hour energy cycle, right? So like getting up every morning, working a 9 to 5, coming home, having a beer, hugging your kids, eating dinner, going to bed, like it really is sustainable for men. But for women, we have this 28-day cycle, right? Because we have periods and we grow babies and like we have this very different energetic flow to us. And the masculine really is the structure, right? And when we talk about masculine in an elevated divine masculine sense, it's inspired action. So there's wisdom, there's power, but it's not overbearing power, right? We need that masculine structure. What we're taught in business is like bro culture, right? Like hustle, 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 go, go, go. Like, what are your growth numbers? What's your growth edge? What are the stats? Like, and it's a very the toxic masculinity of business is really Wolf of Wall Street. Like, when is enough enough? There's never enough. You're always striving for something more. You're never happy where you're at. And that really leaves us depleted as women in particular, because we're here to grow and flow and have all this creativity flowing through us. And yet here we are, we're told like, go, 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 never stop. Add in kids, add in relationships, add in all the things that we have to do at home as caretakers. It really does add up to like ridiculous amounts of stress that are put on us to show up in a way that doesn't feel good to us. The flip side of this, obviously, is like the feminine, right? Like the feminine can be super powerful. And we teach masculine and feminine where it's not about the masculine edge, it's really about the feminine edge. So where does creativity happen while still being supported by the masculine? I actually think women grow faster in the feminine, but the flip side is that we can get too far into our feminine and spin out and have this like very wounded energy to us, giving too much, trying too hard. Again, it's like, when is enough enough? Like we take it to the opposite extreme. And so in business today, I find the conversation of masculine and feminine so interesting because we're still being taught it in a very traditional way. Like it's one way or the other. And really, we need to be looking at it as, like you said at the beginning of this episode, it's a much more holistic view of masculine and feminine. We want the masculine to support the feminine, but we also heal in our feminine. So the work starts in your feminine, and then you introduce the masculine back in, but in a new and exciting way. And that's what we like to do.
Yeah. And I see a lot of, it depends on people's backgrounds and experiences before they start a business, but I see a lot of people coming from the corporate environment and then just taking that same energy, that same way of operating into their businesses, which eventually leads to burnout, right? And then I see the opposite of, especially like healers and coaches and health coaches who are so into their own personal practices and they don't want to give that up, or they don't want to um, spend too much time on their business because that's stressful for them, and so they get too stuck in more of like this feminine way of being. So I think there's so many ways that this does show up in business and in life, and I love the integration of the two and looking at both of them as important.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think really like a lot of what you're saying, it's the wounded energy that we're identifying with, right? Like the wounded go, 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 the wounded give, 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 protecting ourselves, not taking action, not being seen, not being heard. And again, it's, integration is such a fascinating topic in the space right now because we're not meant to do things the way that we've been doing them. There's a different way to do things, and being open to that and receiving that is part of the fun of running a business, I think, right now
Mm-hmm.
in 2021.
Yeah. What do you think is the root of that wounded feminine or toxic masculine? What's underneath that? What causes that?
Well, it's interesting. So in our ever curious exploration of answering that question, so we had discovered human design like quite a few years ago, and we had been just digging into it for ourselves personally. But something that we noticed um, for all of our clients and just women in general in this space, whether they're coming from a more like wounded masculine corporate environment, or like you said, the opposite end of the spectrum, where it's like very woo, very spiritual, but there's like a wounded feminine energy. They're too far into their feminine. The common element between those two is that there's a lot of conditioning that's happening, and so there's that conditioning, and human design explains that conditioning with your energy centers, and you can really pinpoint based on what's happening in your business. Like, is it conditioning with using your voice? Is it conditioning with showing up? Is it conditioning with getting too stuck in your head, right? Is it conditioning around pressure and deadlines, like, or your emotions? Like, you can use it to pinpoint that conditioning. And then the other piece too, that we work on this with everyone. It's like the head thing. Everyone is getting really spinning out and stuck in their head, and that actually is sort of just an overall sort of, I think, societal nurturing. It's like we are told to logically think through something in your head and make a decision based on facts and figures and numbers. And that's actually not how our bodies are built. Like, our bodies, each of us has an inner authority, and you're meant to use that inner authority to make the decision. So we always use the analogy of, like, if you think like you have your iPhone and you have a question, you Google it, and that's great. Google will give you all kinds of data and answers, but Google is not going to make the decision for you. The phone provides you with the information, it filters and discerns and deciphers, but then you still ultimately have to make the decision. And that's the way when we read through a client's human design chart, it's like the top two centers, your anja and your crown, like that's like there's all kinds of inspiration and ideas and viewpoints and judgments about the world that are coming in, and that's amazing. But then we filter it and we don't let our heads make our decisions for us. And that has probably been the most powerful thing that's happened both for Betsy and I personally, but also for our clients. It's like, get out of your head, literally drop down into your body and start making really aligned decisions. And it's amazing how fast someone can get out of their head, and like someone who was spinning out in indecision and like not taking action in their business can like boom start making a lot of really aligned decisions quickly when we like figure out like, what is your energy type, what is your authority, how are we supposed to be doing this, because everyone's a little bit different. And yeah, like Betsy said, like the cookie cutter one size fits all just isn't, it's not going to cut it anymore. I think we've all evolved beyond that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's so powerful to use human design to really customize your business experience, to customize how you show up in your business, and to really see what are my personal blocks or energy blocks, or what are the areas that I'm really strong in naturally? What are my natural strengths that are here? And we can use astrology as one way, but I know that human design uses a lot of different components to create this graph or this reading that you're talking about. So for people who might be newer to human design, can you share a little bit more about the tool itself and why it's so helpful in business?
Yeah. So human design is actually a combination of a lot of different modalities. So there is the astrology base element, there's the I Ching, there's the Tree of Life from Kabbalah. And what they have done with human design is they put it all together in a body graph. And basically, when you think of a body graph, it's like a roadmap for how your energy flows through you and how you are not only receiving information and processing information, but also how you transmit information out into the world. So, when you think of strategies in business, like everything is pretty cookie cutter. And, when we started our business, I mean, the beauty of our business is we've been in business for 4 years. This isn't like our first rodeo. And so we actually have, in a weird sort of way, like I sound so silly using this, but because it sort of goes against what we were talking about, but we have lots of data points like from previous clients and even how we've built our own business. And I think one of the most powerful things that you can do is reverse engineer. And as we started to reverse engineer where our success was in our business, and then also look to the future around what we wanted to be creating, when we started lining that up, first we used the moon to align our energy and to really learn how to flow with the masculine and feminine. But the next logical step for us was taking it to human design and looking at our charts and really seeing, how can we show up in a more succinct way? I'm a projector, so I'm only supposed to work 2 to 4 hours a day. Laura's a generator, even though she has this sacral energy that she can dig into at any time. It only works when she's doing things that light her up. It's not like a be all end all workhorse worker bee energy center. And so I think, again, when you look at like how business is taught in the masculine, if you were being taught how to run a business in the masculine and somebody said to you, well, I can only work 4 hours, if you're the boss, you're gonna be like, what? No, that's not acceptable. And same thing, well, I can only do work that really lights me up. If I was the boss and somebody came to say that to me when I was working in New York, I'd be like, okay, well, see you later. Like, that's not what I'm looking for right now. And so I think having this layer of awareness and having a blueprint for how you should be doing things, it really gives you permission to rewrite where you're going and rewrite how you're doing it. And we're all unique in our own way because we have, where the stars were. Part of human design is like, where were the stars 90 days before you were born? And where were the stars the day that you were born? That creates a really powerful, impactful blueprint. And you get to use that and dig into that and stop fighting with yourself or stop fighting the strategies that you've been given.
Yeah, every time that someone's had a human design reading, including myself, a lot of times, and similar to astrology, it's like confirmation. It's like, oh, now I don't have to be so hard on myself for the way that I am. Like, this is part of my blueprint. This is who I am. I don't need to try and mold and fit to be like everyone else because I'm not like everyone else. And I love that you mentioned that you're a projector because I have a few clients who are projectors and I have a few friends who are projectors, and they're like navigating the entrepreneurial world with a lot of manifesting generators, which is a higher percentage of people who have that human design, right? And generators. Projectors and reflectors are smaller percentages of the population, right?
Yeah, manifestors are about 8%, reflectors are 1, and projectors are 20%. And then generators and manifesting generators, that's about 70% of the population.
I'm
So they
so
have that
impressed that you know that.
sacral we talk about this a lot, so
Yeah.
it's at the forefront of my mind. But yeah, it's like, if you have that sacral energy, manifesting generators actually work faster than generators because they are this hybrid between the manifestor and the generator. And so it's like recognizing manifesting generators, you're here to do things differently. Projectors, you're here to guide, you're here to like cut through the bullshit and like find a new way to do things. And you get to do that in a shorter amount of time than other people. But like, we don't honor that in business as a good thing. We make ourselves feel guilty for not being available 24/7 or, working an 8-hour day. And it's really hard when the conditioning is so deep. Like, I'm still struggling with this. And I've known about my human design for 4 years. Like, I was like, oh, this is so awesome. But even this morning I had to do, like, some people do cost analysis and revenue analysis. And I literally mapped out the last 3 months, how many hours we're working in a month. And I'm like, okay, so I'm over my 4-hour-a-day threshold, Laura. Like, we're going to make some decisions here to honor my energy. And like, it's a very different conversation to have in business.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so powerful. And I know that even if you know these things, it's still putting them into practice. And it is a process and an evolution, and making sure that you have the right support. So I love that you two work together, a generator and a projector. I feel like that probably works out pretty well. And for people who are, let's just say, projectors, and they're on their own in business, m- my invitation there is definitely to have support. If you can have a team, or if you can bring people on to support you so that you can be in your energy alignment, right? And
Mhm.
honor your energy. It's probably not going to happen all the time, but I know that that is a personal exploration that people get to be in, of, if I'm not working 8 hours a day, how am I going to move my business forward? There's a disconnect in the mind of like, how is
Mhm.
that even possible? So from what you've seen, when people align and when they are honoring their own human design, and their blueprint, do you find, what are some of the results that you find in business or in their experience as a business owner?
Pretty radical shifts, like quite quickly. Like, we've had projectors that have like quit their job, like, just like, this thing is burning me out, and went and like, were really like, you gave them permission to step into their business and to start calling in clients. The comment you made about projectors is true. Like, yeah, projectors, as your business grows and scales, it definitely makes sense to bring on someone on your team or into a partnership who's like a gen or a manny gen, because they've got that sacral power. Like, why not? But there's plenty of projectors out there who do really well in business themselves. The difference is that you actually have to redefine what work is. So a really good example would be, this probably happened like, I don't know, maybe it was a month ago, but like, we'd had a really busy week of coaching calls, like lots of podcasts, coaching calls. There's just like a lot happening. And Betsy was like, I have passed my maximum, Laura. Like, you need to clear the calendar. And I'm taking Friday off. This is happening. So, went to bed. She went to bed Thursday night, was like super burnt out. And I was like, Kate, clearing out the calendar. So Friday morning, she woke up and she spent basically the entire day like deep diving, nerding out on like all her human design textbooks, and like more, you just like nerding out even deeper than she's already done for the last 4 years, let's say, more than. And basically by the end of the day, she had like spilled into a Google Doc exactly what our new program currently is, like the playground, which is like our 6-month deep dive intensive, for understanding like your human design, and how to build a brand based on your business, how to niche based on your human design, how to build a brand based on your business, how to build a brand based on your human design, how to niche, how to sell, like everything, in accordance with your human design. But she, like, that's the work of a projector. Like, and I always invite our clients to like when you think about work, you probably think about your past experiences, the jobs that you had. You had to wake up and go to work Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, and there were certain tasks and you had a boss and all this. Imagine I like waved a magic wand and we live in this utopian world where you, the little projector, all you have to do is get up in the morning and spend time mastering your craft. You get to nerd out and deep dive on the thing that you love, whatever is your specific niche. For Betsy, that was spending 8 hours at her desk, drinking cups of tea and like nerding out in human design. And then when you've mastered that and you recognize yourself as a master and you share that with the world, hey, I'm really good at this thing. There's this thing that I know, then other people recognize you and then you get invitations, and then the invitations come and all you have to do is just speak. You're the guide, just start talking to them, answer the questions that they're asking, and then the clients come and then the success comes. So projectors, the 2 to 4 hours a day, it's like projectors should spend 2 to 4 hours a day guiding, like following the invitations and showing up. So as a business owner, that means like podcasts, coaching calls, Insta stories, like, live recorded trainings. That's your 2 to 4 hours a day. The other hours of work, air quotes, is like you nerding out on the thing that you love and recognizing yourself for it and receiving recognition for it.
Hmm.
Like when you think about that, like that's actually pretty wild, right? Like that's a pretty alternate universe compared to what most of us have been trained to do. And it's like a complete, I mean, my chart and Betsy's charts were like, we were like polar opposites, our human design chart. So, but as a generator, I'm a pure generator. So sacral authority, um, you know, and honestly, the funny thing is generators are as burnt out by being trained, like a lot of times you'll hear people write blog posts of like, I'm a manifestor and I was raised to be a generator and like, I can't do it. It's like, no, you weren't actually raised to be a generator. You were raised to be this other hyper toxic masculine workhorse thing. That's actually not what a generator is. A generator creates energy after their desire has been piqued. So you pique your desire, you're excited, I'm really into something, and then you produce energy. So where generators go wrong is, or many gens, is that you have a to-do list of things and you are not lit up by any of them. Or there's that one thing on your to-do list that keeps getting like shuffled over to the next day and the next day, and then like a month goes by and you still haven't done it. And you tell yourself, well, when I feel like doing it, or when I have the energy, I just don't have the energy. I'm just not feeling it. I'm just not going to do that yet. Well, maybe you don't want to do it and you don't have the energy for it because it doesn't pique your desire. And so then it's actually a matter of stepping back from the paradigm you've been taught and be like, do I actually need to do that task? Is that actually correct for me? Maybe I don't need to be posting on Pinterest all the time. Maybe that's not correct for me. Maybe I need to be taking a different strategy. Not that there's anything wrong with that strategy, it's not right for me. I need to go over here and do this other strategy because that actually lights me. When I'm lit up, then I have the energy and then I can go all day. Like that's the alternate universe of human design. It is pretty woo and it's pretty out there, but we've like Betsy, for example, like created this program, kind of like brain dumped it in an hour into a Google Doc. Like that's, projectors really do things in a short period of time, but it's like when they know how to work.
Hmm. Yeah, you've mentioned a couple times like old paradigm or new paradigm, and I do feel like we're just going to zoom out for a minute and just recognize that we're in 2021. We're going through a massive awakening. There's a lot of things that are
Yeah.
not working in the systems, not just in business, but also in our politics, in so many areas of life right now, of society. And it is such a interesting time to be living in. There's so much transformation and change happening, and it's scary. It's scary to let go of the old systems, the old ways of being, because these new ways are new, and there is no quote unquote evidence or proof that they work. But what we do know for sure is that the old ways are not working anymore. The old ways are causing us to be sick and tired and not actually achieving the goals that we desire to achieve. And that's not what we're here for. I don't believe that that's what we're here for. So I'm curious to hear if you ladies are seeing the same thing in the bigger picture, and then also within the world of business and entrepreneurship, and the way that things are shifting.
Oh, I totally see things shifting. I mean, even the conversations that we're having, we're recording this in April. I mean, the conversations even from January till now, there's a new depth. Like 2020 was really about like this collective, like, oh shit, right? Like everything got upended. And I think what I'm excited about with conversations that we're having right now is that we've accepted what 2020 was, right? It was like, it was not normal. Like on any level, it was not normal. And so people that were thriving in 2020, um, that then like couldn't handle the momentum, I see a shift in them. I see the people that struggled in 2020 coming out on the other side and really focusing on how they can show up more authentically and in alignment. And that's creating massive change. And I think people are learning how to speak again in a way that is more direct, right? And human design helps that too, because we have a manifestation center, which is our throat center. And, you know, if you have an open throat center, so many people didn't feel heard this year. Well, do you have an open throat? Like, are you using your throat the right way? Because you're here to advocate for other people. There's people that have closed throats. They're here to advocate for themselves. They can talk about their own personal stories. And I think the deeper that we get into, I was writing an email this morning and Laura's like, oh my God, you could write like a masterclass on like nonviolent communication, but like really focusing on how we communicate, how we talk about our thoughts. Is it, you know, are we making it about ourselves? Are we serving a higher purpose, the greater good? I think those are the conversations, you know, when we live in a society where cancel culture is like the thing right now and everyone who wants to point a finger, but like, are you actually getting heard when you are saying some of the things that you're saying? Like, if you're not, then it's an invitation to look at how we can communicate in a different way. I really don't believe it's about like confronting. Like, I think that there's something so abrasive happening in the way that people are speaking sometimes. And to me, it's all about, again, like you look at the masculine, the toxic masculine. I mean, it's very confrontational. And I really think that there's space now to have deeper conversations with less judgment if we are open to it. And those are the conversations like I want to be a part of. I'm here to hear other points of view and to learn and to like redefine. And that's the energy that I think we attract with our clients and we attract in the conversations that we're having, like with you today. And I want to see that momentum keep going, because you're right. It's like a totally new consciousness is coming together. And I think it's our responsibility to be a part of that change.
Mhm. Yeah, I do want to speak to the contrast that we're experiencing right now of separation and
Mhm.
of the confrontation or the judgment. And we've seen this in so many places, starting with the election and starting with vaccinations and with choices that people are making for themselves and their families throughout the pandemic. And there's so much us versus them or right and wrong that's happening right now. And I do believe that this contrast eventually will lead us to more oneness. That's my vision and my hope that it will. Sometimes we have to experience this and be like, what are we doing? Like,
Yeah.
what is actually happening right now? Like, cancel culture online, bullying online, like these are things that I would think that we're really far beyond, but we're not. They're showing up here for a reason. And I do think that there's going to be a big lesson, hopefully, through this. And yeah, I'm curious, Laura, what your thoughts are on the changes that we're seeing and the evolution that we're going through.
Um, I mean, I think, well, you know, the thing with like, I always say to our clients, it's like, because there is this, you know, all of our clients are really big-hearted people, and they see problems in the world, and they're like, I know I can be of service, and that's really where most of their businesses are birthed from, whether it's like a health coaching business or um, like a product line or like breath work, like whatever kind of business they have. Um, but I always think it's like we have to like first of all clean up your corner of the universe. Like stay in your corner and clean up your corner really good before we start like throwing stones in glass houses, right? And I think too that's where, you know, it's really exciting to see people understanding themselves on a really deep level and also understanding their own conditioning, because we have had conversations with people, whether it's like we have like our Level Up by Luscious Hustle community, which anyone can join, and like there will be, you know, comments made about like, well, I can't do this, or I'm not ready for this, or this isn't fair, you know, something about the coaching world, like this isn't fair, or I don't like this. And when you can actually like get curious, stay open, get curious, ask a bunch of questions and tease out like, why do they think that way? Like what pinned them in that corner? And it's usually comes back to something from their childhood, something from their youth. They were conditioned in some way. And even though we're all, we're all intelligent adults here, it's like that notion was still rooted in their minds in some way, like I'm not worthy, or this is not possible for me, and therefore I can't have it. And so when I'm presented with that or triggered in some way externally, then it's like it causes anger, it causes frustration, it causes bitterness. And so when you can peel back that layer for yourself and realize, like, oh, you know what, like I am really frustrated right now, I am bitter, and yes, I was triggered by whatever, something in my environment, but I can't control what's outside of me, but I can control what's in me. I have a choice to make. I can choose to decondition. I can choose to, not necessarily, forgive something that was not necessarily forgive a person for that person's sake, but forgive for your own sake, in terms of releasing that that whatever energetic hold that has on you. Right. And then you get to move forward. And it's really interesting how all of these things in our personal lives actually do play out in your business. Like whether you're conscious of it or not, they're always conjoined. And so that's where it's like someone will come to us with like an issue about pricing, or like my clients don't want to pay the price, or my prices are too low, and I'm not making any money, I'm not generating profit. So it's like that's like one tiny little tangible problem. But when we pull that thread all the way back down through their human design, we can be like, oh, I see where this is coming from, and then we can course correct it from within. And I think that's a really empowering thing to do for someone.
Yeah, and that's really the work that I'm doing as an intuitive mindset coach with entrepreneurs is peeling back the layers of these wounds and inner child pieces that do play out in our businesses. And I just recently interviewed a business coach and wealth mentor, Tori Washington, and we specifically talked about this around pl- healing your inner child wounds for business growth, or so that your inner child wounds aren't just projected onto your business and your clients and your coaches and the industry and all of those things. And really what this comes down to, in my opinion, is personal responsibility, and really taking ownership for, why is this triggering me? Why is this showing up within me? And not from a place of judging yourself or making yourself wrong and making meaning of it or a story of it, but being willing to look within so that you can transmute it and alchemize it and shift it and show up in an empowered way. Because I do believe that we are the creators of our reality. And the more that we get sucked into the story and the parts that aren't working, we're giving our power away to things that are not going to change unless it changes from within. So that's really the approach that I take. And I really love that you brought that to the conversation. Yeah.
Well, so many people are so afraid to admit that they're wrong right now. And so I think that really creates like a dynamic, especially as a business owner. Like, what's your legacy? Like, what are you trying to create? Like, we don't do this because we want to show up for a couple months and make 30 grand and like go sit on a beach. Like, the work that we do is really about legacy. It really is about creating a new future. It's about changing the conversation. And so if you're afraid to be wrong, or you get so fixed in a way of thinking, it really does deter you from being able to grow, not just as like a business owner, but as like a human being on this planet. And I think 2020 taught us a lot about things that we didn't know, like conversations were introduced that we had not thought about before, and relationships were tested. And it's like, can you have those harder conversations, or are you spiritually bypassing the emotions that you're feeling? And I really think what you're saying with the inner child work, like we don't specifically do inner child work. I've done it on myself, but I do think that part of the deconditioning helps with the inner child work, like especially with human design. And we all have to learn how to reparent ourselves in this new world with new information and with a new like cognizant responsibility to what the future is. Like, I mean, even just look at like, it's like Earth Day, right? Today, I think, is Earth Day. I mean, look at the conversations that are happening around global climate change. Like, look at the Black Lives Matter movement. Like, all of these are conversations that are shifting our collective consciousness. And so it's like, you can't really be a business owner. This is a bold statement. I'm going to piss somebody off, but like, I really don't believe that you can be a business owner in this day and age and pretend like none of these conversations are happening. You just can't. They are informing the conversation. They are forming the direction that we're all taking. And, it really is your responsibility to lean in and not just bypass. I'm not saying that every single day you got to go deep, right? But you can't just shut it off and pretend like it's not happening, Like
Mhm.
COVID will go away. The rest of it is not going away. Right.
Mhm. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, what I'm seeing too is a call for leadership, and I do believe that the businesses that are going to survive and the businesses that are going to be sustainable and continue to grow and, get to a more evolved space are the ones who are willing to say like, hey, there's changes that need to happen, and even acknowledging maybe ways of being and things that haven't been working, and really this leadership piece around ethics and around how we're showing up as human beings, not as money making entrepreneurs, but as human beings. Like, who are we being and how are we contributing to the collective conversation? And I'll be the first to admit that I'm definitely not perfect, and I'm in this with everyone else, and in the learning and understanding how do we navigate business in this new landscape? How do we show up as leaders of our own lives and our businesses? And so I definitely see both of you in that conversation. And I really appreciate that about you, and how you're not shying away from these topics. And so I appreciate you bringing that to the conversation today.
Oh, Trudy LeBron, we had her on our podcast, and it's not even about how you make money. It's about equity in the business space. And she's the person, like, if you want to understand how, like,
Mhm.
even as a white business owner, you can show up, like, she's the woman to follow. Like, she really lays it out. But I think, we are so lucky that we're in a space where we get to talk to so many people, and we get to have these like 3-dimensional conversations and 4-dimensional conversations. And again, like we've said this so many times on the podcast, like communication with what you're doing, who you're talking to, how you're positioning yourself. It is such an important part of being a business owner and being a leader. And I know a lot of women are shying away from the word leadership, because it feels like icky in the moment, because there is so much confusion. But again, like, that's what human design is here for, because some of us are designed to be leaders. Some of us are designed to simply go inside and master our own energy and our own skills and bring that to the collective. And really having that permission slip within your own human design and your blueprint, I mean, that's really the first step to being truly empowered in the work that you do, and being able to step into weird conversations that make other people. I don't get uncomfortable in any of these conversations. If I fuck up, I fuck up. Like, I will own that to the day I die. But also, part of my human design is being a leader. So,
Mhm.
like, I recognize that role, and I don't shy away from it. But yeah, like, I mean, honestly, there's so many tools out there now, like energetic tools, things that we can do, work that we can do, leaders that we can work with, to really dig into. And I think the first step, if you're listening to this and you're like, well, where do I start? It's like, really get curious about where you're feeling stuck. Do you need the energetic blueprint of human design? Or, do you need to understand what equity in business means and legacy in business? Rachel Rogers is another person that talks about this, right? Like, so there's all these different things. It's not a cookie cutter, one size fits all. And understanding that work is still work. You're going to be doing the work for the rest of your life if you're creating a business that's going to be sustainable. And so get curious, find the things that light you up, and then like let that take the lead, so that you can show up in a way that feels really good, and you're not going to bed feeling like terrible at the end of the day. I mean, that's what burnout is. We're doing things, too many things in the wrong direction. Burnout.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Amazing. Well, I know that there's more to this conversation, and we just scratched the surface with human design and business and energetics and everything. So I know both of you have a podcast where people can come on over and listen more. I think that's actually how I found out about you, maybe like a year and a half ago. I don't even remember when I subscribed, but it was a while back. And I've just loved seeing your evolution and hearing your thoughts on the podcast. So it's Luscious Hustle, the podcast, right?
Yep,
Yes.
the podcast is Luscious Hustle, and everything is like on our www.lusciousHustle.com. And we hang out on Instagram mostly, to be honest. We have a Facebook group, which we love, but we ignore our Facebook business page. I feel like everyone does now.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah. Yeah, that's where we are, and that's where we're hanging. And yeah, we have our Level Up by Luscious Hustle community, and that group is lots of fun on Facebook. And then yeah, just we're at luscious.hustle on Instagram.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you for being here, and thank you for opening up these powerful conversations and sharing your wisdom on human design and business. And I really appreciate the work that you're doing.
Oh my
Well,
gosh,
thank
thank you
you.
so
Thank
much
you
for
for
having
having
us.
us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. We'll see you soon. Thanks so much.